This man is a cannibal whose twisted desires led to terrifying and horrific crimes. Joseph Roy Metheny's life, shaped by a broken childhood, addiction, and an obsession with revenge, spiraled into one of America's most shocking stories. How did he become one of the most notorious killers, and what chilling secrets did he reveal about his gruesome acts? Could there be more to the story than we know? Stay tuned as we uncover the disturbing truth behind the hamburger cannibal. Tonight's story that you're about to hear began as a result of a vendetta. The subject's own words concluded with a burning desire for the taste of human flesh. That sense of dominance and control achieved after taking another's life is what drove this man, Joseph Roy Metheny, a morbidly obese individual with a piercing gaze and heavy features, a menacing smile, standing at 1.85 meters tall and weighing more than 150 kilos. In his statement, he remarked, "The next time you're driving down the road and spot a burger stand you've never noticed before, remember this story carefully, as you may not know who you're actually eating." This crime story revolves around Joseph Roy Metheny, born on March 2nd, 1955 in Baltimore, USA, into a family of 6 children. Most of the time, the children were neglected by their parents, as their father had a severe drinking problem and spent his money on alcohol. This left their mother working tirelessly to make ends meet. When Joseph was just 6 years old, their father died in a car accident, leaving the mother to take full responsibility for the family. As a result, the children were neglected even more since their mother had to work double shifts as a waitress and food truck driver just to cover expenses. Joseph and his siblings were often sent to live with other families in the foster care system, which offers a temporary safe place for children in danger, neglect, or abuse until it's determined that they can return to their biological parents, or if needed, be adopted by the families that care for them. Joseph turned to food as a form of escape, which led to severe obesity, an issue that worsened as he grew older. At 18, he claimed to have joined the U.S. Army in 1973, serving in Germany. During his service, Joseph became addicted to drugs, leading to noticeable changes in his behavior, marking the start of many future problems. His mother saw the deterioration of her son, who grew increasingly distant from his family. His friends called him tiny, despite his 6'4" frame and large build. His addiction gradually led him to follow in his father's footsteps, frequenting bars and saloons and living among homeless people in makeshift camps throughout South Baltimore. It was here that Joseph met a woman whose name remains unknown, with whom he fathered his first child. After learning he was going to be a father, he found a job in a company where things initially went well, as he was considered smart, articulate, and well-educated. However, few knew about his addiction problems. It all started on a night in July 1994. Joseph was at work, driving a forklift at Joe Stein and Sons Pallet Company, a company that sold and manufactured pallets. He worked late that night, putting in overtime. After his shift, he returned home as usual. Upon opening the door and switching on the light, he realized the house was empty. Neither his 6-year-old son nor his wife were there. She had taken everything and left him. The silence in his home fueled his rage, not because he missed his wife, a drug addict with whom he frequently fought, but because he loved his son deeply. In fact, he referred to his wife as a scumbag who used all kinds of substances. Days passed as he searched for them without success. 6 months later, some people mentioned they had seen her across town with a man who was forcing her to provide intimate services in exchange for drugs, with no concern for the child's presence. A few days after that, his ex-wife and her partner were arrested for drug consumption and possession, and the child was taken away due to neglect and abuse. Joseph found himself powerless to retrieve his son, which filled him with hatred toward his wife and her partner. He believed they had to pay for taking his son away, so he began searching for them after learning of their release. The only punishment they faced was losing custody of their child. Joseph discovered they were living under a bridge with drug addicts and homeless individuals, and one day, he decided to look for them. Unfortunately, his search was unsuccessful in locating them, but he stumbled upon 2 people lying on a dirty old mattress. At that moment, all the pent-up rage about losing his son consumed him, and he lashed out, taking their lives. He then hid their bodies in some nearby bushes and continued his search in the surrounding area. Later that night, Joseph kept searching near other bridges and soon noticed 2 women under a bridge not far from where he had committed the murders. He approached them, trying to gather information about his wife's whereabouts. One of the women walked a few meters away where he questioned her. However, under the influence of substances, she was incoherent and claimed to know nothing. When Joseph didn't get the answers he wanted, he began beating her, then sexually assaulted her before ending her life. Afterward, he dragged her body into the bushes. Turning to the second woman, she also denied knowing anything about his wife. Despite her pleas, Joseph killed her too. As he was about to discard her body in the bushes next to the other woman, he noticed an old man by the river fishing and watching him. Grabbing a pipe from the trash, Joseph rushed at the man, striking him repeatedly and ending his life. Once he regained his senses and realized the extent of his actions, Joseph dragged all the bodies to the riverbank in Baltimore, Maryland. He tried to cover the bodies with rocks before washing himself in the river and cleaning the scene as best he could to avoid leaving traces. Joseph later claimed he had killed 5 people that night over the span of roughly 7 hours during his search for his wife. One night in 1994, he lured Kathy Ann Magaziner, a 39-year-old with a criminal record, to the factory. They were using illicit substances, and when she refused to be intimate with him, Joseph strangled her to death. He then dug a shallow grave in a small forest behind the factory, where the body remained undetected for 6 months. He decapitated her, disposing of the head in the trash, while the body stayed buried for years. On August 2nd, 1995, the bodies of vagrants Randall Brewer and Randy Piker were discovered. A few weeks later, Joseph Roy Metheny was accused of their murders because witnesses had spotted an overweight man near the bridges on the night of the killings. After an investigation, Joseph's whereabouts were uncovered, and he was arrested. Denied bail, he spent 18 months in Baltimore City Jail awaiting trial. However, due to a lack of evidence, the trial lasted only a week, and Joseph was released, as another homeless individual was determined to have committed the crime. Upon release, Joseph returned to his previous job and asked his boss to give him back his position at the wood pallet company. His boss, seeing him as a good worker, agreed and allowed Joseph to stay in a small trailer on the property, provided he kept an eye on the place. Having just been released from jail with no place to stay, Joseph accepted the offer, receiving keys to the entire facility, with his boss trusting his good intentions. However, Joseph had other plans, as the company's remote location at the end of a dead-end street made it the perfect place to act out his dark desires. In November 1996, Joseph lured Kimberly Lynn Spicer to the factory, where he stabbed her to death after she resisted his advances. He buried her body on the factory grounds. At one point, Joseph claimed to have cut pieces of her flesh, stored them in Tupperware, and placed them in the refrigerator. That week, he set up a small hamburger stand where he supposedly mixed human flesh with pork and beef. According to him, no one could tell the difference, and many customers even praised the burgers as the best they'd ever eaten. He mentioned that everything had been going smoothly until he ran out of his special meat. On December 8, 1996, he brought in a new victim named Rita, who recalled they shared drugs for a long while inside the trailer. He attempted to tear off her clothes, but she resisted intimacy with him, and in her desperation, she began screaming. There was no one nearby to help her, so in a moment of opportunity, she managed to run out of the trailer. Joseph went after her and dragged her back inside. He told her he was going to kill her, but she escaped again, running toward a wire fence topped with spikes. Despite this, she jumped over it and ran toward the road. A passing man in a pickup truck saw her and took her to a nearby gas station where the police were called. Joseph gathered his clothes, knowing it wouldn't be long before they came for him. As he exited the trailer, one of the officers was already there, ordering him to get down on the ground, leading to his arrest. During questioning, as expected, he denied all accusations. One of them was that the girl had claimed he told her she would end up like the other girls buried in the forest. Joseph denied ever saying this, insisting everything had been consensual, and he was released. Afraid the police might investigate the scene, Joseph asked a friend to help him dig up Kimberly's body, which was still inside the factory. On December 15, 1996, that same friend reported him to the authorities, claiming Joseph had asked him to help move a woman's body buried near the trailer. Joseph was arrested again, as was the owner of the business for alleged complicity. The police then asked Joseph to reveal where Kimberly was buried. He provided the exact location, and after digging, they found the woman's body. That same day, once interrogations began, Joseph admitted to other crimes, including the murder of Kathy Ann Magaziner. He led police to where her remains were buried, and they found a shallow grave. Much of her skull was missing, but her dental records confirmed the remains belonged to Kathy. Days later, Joseph claimed to be a serial killer, confessing to 13 murders. According to him, he disposed of the bodies in the Tabasco River, where they were never found. He also claimed to have dismembered most of his victims and stored their remains to eat later. He added that he had even come up with the idea to set up a food stand where he sold human flesh, mixed with animal meat. Initially, his statements were shocking, but as the days passed, doubts arose about the truthfulness of his claims. During the investigations, Joseph was taken out of jail daily and driven to various locations, but none of the bodies he claimed to have buried were found. Detectives began to doubt whether he was telling the truth or simply delusional, as many of his statements seemed too fantastical to believe. The main issue in investigating Joseph Roy Metheny was that he was also a compulsive liar with a talent for creating elaborate stories. In 1997, he was tried in the case of Rita Kemper, the victim who managed to escape, and sentenced to 50 years in prison for attempted kidnapping and abuse. In 1998, he pleaded guilty to the murder of Kathy Ann Magaziner, and on July 14, 2000, he was sentenced to life without parole. People were left questioning whether Joseph was lying for attention or if his mental state was so unstable that he confessed to crimes he never committed. No evidence was found for the crimes he allegedly committed, nor was it ever proven that he had opened a meat stand to sell his victims' bodies. The only murders proven were 2. His mental instability was evident, leading him to fabricate false confessions. In the end, he stated, "The words 'I'm sorry' will never come out of my mouth because they would be a lie. I am more than ready to give my life for what I have done, for God to judge me and send me to hell for eternity. I just enjoyed it." On Saturday, August 5th, 2017, Joseph was found mysteriously dead in his cell around 3 p.m. at the Western Correctional Institution in Cumberland, Maryland, of unknown causes at the age of 62. This case serves as a clear example that not everything confessed by murderers is true, as many claim crimes they did not commit in an attempt to feel important and recognized. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. I hope you had a great night and continue to enjoy another day.